Welcome, everyone, to Beyond Broth's first summit, Nurturing a New World from Chaos to Goodness. I'm Grace Ventura, founder and creator of Beyond Broth. Joining us today is a most wonderful human, woman, powerful leader, entrepreneur, friend, sister, Katz. And we are going to be speaking about creating a fully aligned life and income. But before we hand it over to Ali, I just want to share a little bit about her background, where she comes from. She's a lawyer, an entrepreneur, a new economy personal finance expert. Wow. She found two companies, one that teaches lawyers how to serve families and business owners in ways that really make a difference in their lives. And another that supports you to be your own best financial advisor with right-aligned decision-making around legal, insurance, financial, and tax matters. Holy moly, you just have, I can't even imagine that job. What a responsibility. What a huge experience, though. So powerful to work with people about personal finance because it's such a powerful subject. We have right now the time we have together. So without further ado, I just hand this to you to comment on anything I've said, and we'll just go from there.
Great. Well, thank you, Grace. The reason I said yes to being here with you in this is because of our friendship and my watching of your journey with money, actually. And so that's what I'm hoping to talk about today. and I think that you're going to be willing to go there in service to the people that are here who want to bring their goodness forth. And really what I have gotten to see, and I'll check in with you about this to make sure that it's true, is that from my perception, your journey with money, some of which, only a small amount I've gotten to see behind the scenes in our walks and our talks over the years, and, seeing your beginning journey of bringing Beyond Broth to the world and not really knowing how to deal with any of the money pieces, from what I could tell, but willing.
Obvious.
Yes, but willing, but really, willing to show up and meet each moment. And then what appears to me to be the case, to have really confronted some of those pieces that, from what I could see, were holding you back in those beginning years, and being able to move through to a next level that I'm seeing made manifest now, even just in being able to have this event and have the support that you need in order to have this event. And the reason that I would love to, really use this as a time to allow people to see your process is because I think it is a process that so many of us go through as we are stepping into our roles as creators of the economy. And we are the creators of the economy. So often we can operate under this false belief that the economy is out there and it's something happening to us or being done to us or something we're subject to or at the effect of, but really we are the cause. And when we can step into our full responsibility, and I don't mean that from a place of like obligation or duty, I mean from the place of the ability to respond. Responsibility just meaning, oh, I have the ability to respond to this. And when we can step in to our roles as creators of the economy from this ability to respond place, it's incredibly empowering. And we get to then realize, oh, I'm not subject to any of this. I actually am the creator. And in my role as creator, I get to find my right role in an ecosystem. And in my right role in an ecosystem, we now are coming together to create the new world that we want to be living in together. And it does require these pretty big shifts because this is not what was taught to us,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so, you know, when I look at the lens through which I made my decisions in the early years of starting my businesses, you know, going back 20 years now, I did not ever think I was going to be an entrepreneur. You did not ever think you were going to be an entrepreneur.
No.
Yeah. And so when I went into entrepreneurship, and I was really young. I was the breadwinner in my family. I was a lawyer, but they don't really teach us anything about business or money in law school. And my husband was a stay-at-home dad. I had 2 little kids at home. And I just figured it out as I went along. And as I was figuring it out as I went along, what got uncovered in the process is how many of my decisions were being made through the lens of deep generational programming around scarcity and fear and not enoughness. And through that, I discovered something that I'll call money dysmorphia. And money dysmorphia is the distorted view that we have of our financial reality that causes us to make poor decisions around how we use our non-renewable resources. And this happens at the micro level, all the way, of course, we can see it on the macro level, but on the micro level, our non-renewable resources are our time, energy, and attention. Non-renewable. Once time, energy, and attention is used, we don't get that back. Every day, you know, we're just getting a little bit closer to the day that we're going to die. It's going to happen to all of us. And so we get to face this. You know, we get to face this and see that time, energy, and attention is our most valuable non-renewable resource. And money is actually infinitely renewable when we know how to use it wisely, when we know how to access it, when we know how to earn it. But somehow this all got twisted around to make us think that it's money that's scarce and our time, energy, and attention that we could just keep giving and giving and giving until one day we realize, actually, there's no more.
We're tired.
We're tired. Yes. And it's true. When I was in my 20s and my 30s, maybe I did think that time, energy, and attention was infinitely renewable. Maybe I did think I was invincible and that I was never going to die.
Sure.
But I'm in my 40s now. And, you know, I can see, oh, actually, my energy, not infinitely renewable.
No.
And while I can bend time pretty well, the reality is we all only have 24 hours in the day, 7 days a week. It's the same for all of us. That's, you know, the one thing that's the same, but how we use it can be very different.
Yes.
Of course, attention, you know. And so I discovered this thing in me called money dysmorphia. And when I discovered it and was able to see it, I was able to start to make some shifts around it and reclaim my time, energy, and attention and put money in its right place.
Mm-hmm.
Because money has a right role, a really important role. It's how we exchange value. And really, it's just another energy source, right? But we've assigned all this emotion to it. And so I guess my inquiry with you would be to go back to the beginning days of, you know, Beyond Broth and your own journey with money. And, you know, just to check in and see, like, what has changed for you along the way. I'm really curious about it because I have seen the shifts externally, but I'm not entirely sure what's happened for you internally.
Sure. Well, you know, as you first asked me this question in the beginning, my palms started getting sweaty. I said, wow, that's not usually a response for me. So I knew that it was touching a really deep experience that I don't know that I have reviewed. So here you go. Not recently, anyway. You know, I kind of witness it as I go, but I don't look back and say, oh, this is where I was. And it's a very powerful exercise. So I appreciate the exercise to kind of track, like, oh yeah, that's where I was. And I think it is actually a reality check. So thank you for the opportunity. I had always been in the service industry. So as a mother, as a healer, as a yoga teacher, as a health coach, it was all about nurturing, nourishing, teaching cooking, being a personal chef. It's like all of those things I was doing. It was so nourishing. And that's really where Beyond Broth even came from. You know, it's another expression of that. So for me, everything I've ever done, I love doing. I loved serving, being of service. I love being a mom. um, of course, when they were younger, it was always very challenging. Not always, but you know, it had its challenges of 6 kids. So um, I came from that place, and my money place had a really hard time navigating in how to equate my service and money. Because to me, it was, I remember once upon a time I used to say, maybe I should just say to people, give me whatever you think I'm worth. Like, what would that be like? Because I don't know, you know, how do I know what that value of love and care has, you know? So it was always very challenging to consider that. And that's because I never had a product. I never did anything like this. It was a very different perspective,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and I want to speak to that for a moment because I think that's why a lot of women end up in under earning situations, right? Because we do have that feeling of, yes, just give me whatever. I'm doing it because I love you. I'm doing it because I want to nurture you or nourish you. And then we, and not just women, I would say, sometimes, people who would say that they're more spiritual and they don't really care about the money. But then we end up getting into situations where um, we actually don't have our needs met. And then all of a sudden, that thing that used to be the thing we were giving from our heart and nurturing becomes something that we resent. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not feeling valued. I'm not feeling appreciated. And what happened in that process oftentimes is that there was a disconnect. We didn't know how to engage in self-appreciation and know what we needed and then be able to ask for what we need in exchange for what we have to give. And I've actually identified that as what I call the equation for enough. And so a big cure for money dysmorphia is to know what actually is enough.
Mm.
And know how to meet that enough from this really grounded, healthy place so that we're not in this constant perpetual quest for more, which we know doesn't feel good and we don't want to do. But then we're also not in this situation where we are really becoming a drain energetically on society because we don't actually have enough. Or where we are in a place of resentment because we're not being appreciated and valued. And so one way that we get to use money actually is to get into right relationship with what do we actually need. Lynn Twist talks about this from more of an esoteric perspective in her book, The Soul of Money. It was one of the most eye-opening books I read because she talked about this concept of sufficiency. And that when we are coming from this place of sufficiency, we can give more, we can be generous. It's like the cure, the antidote to scarcity.
Mm.
But I realized in reading that I love the idea of it, and that's where I wanted to come from. But I didn't actually know what sufficiency was. And my mind needed an equation. My mind needed to know what sufficiency was so that I could create that in my life, because I had too much deep programming to just say, okay, just come from sufficiency or change my, people would say, change your mindset. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know how to change my mindset. I needed to create some practical tools for myself that would allow me to know, all right, how do I actually do this? What is the practical reality that's going to allow my mind to make this shift? And so I came up with this equation for enough. And it begins with knowing what you actually need. What do you actually need? Now, what you need changes throughout time, throughout life. So this is a process that you revisit throughout your lifetime, and there's multiple levels to need, right? So, Grace, what you need, separate from your role as a businesswoman, is probably pretty small, actually. Like if we really looked at what you need to be happy, to thrive in the world, if you were not running a business, being a grandma, going to hot springs, living a pretty simple life that you'd be super happy with, your needs are probably really pretty small.
Organic food.
Yeah. Yeah. Organic food, a nice place to live, the ability to get to the hot springs, feed your grandkids.
Yeah.
Right?
A car. I have a car.
Yeah.
You know.
So that is what we would call your minimum to thrive. Everybody needs to know what their own minimum to thrive is. There's not a right answer. It is whatever's actually true for you. Minimum to thrive based on where you are in your life, in your circumstances, in your own reality of minimum to thrive. So it's going to be different for everybody. That number is actually very different than your minimum to be of service. As a businesswoman with your role in your company, your minimum to be in service is actually much higher. You need support. You can, as I think you've discovered over the years, you can't do this alone.
That's actually that's the next part of what happened from as I went into this business. But you're talking, so I don't want to.
Yeah, I'll come back to what you were saying in just a moment. So we have that minimum to be of service. Yes. That's another level of need that is based on the role that you have in an ecosystem that you are either creating or part of, right? We don't all have to create the ecosystem. You happen to be creating one. I'm creating one, but some of us are just part of one. We're part of one, which is a very important role as well. So my minimum to be of service is going to be different depending on my role in the ecosystem and how much I'm holding and what I'm holding. And then we get into what I call preferred if you could afford it. And preferred if you could afford it is where you start to get into wants. And it's really important to know the difference between our needs and our wants. And then there's also the truth of knowing where you are now. And then you can map where you are now against your minimum to thrive, minimum to be of service, preferred if you can afford it. And that will let you know what you actually do need to be receiving in exchange for what you have to give. And a lot of us don't even know what we have to give because our relationship with time is so messed up, right? The frame of time in our society is work as much as you can to make as much as you can. And then what you have left over, give to family. And then what you have left over, give to self-care. And you know what happens to self-care in that scenario? It just doesn't happen. So we flip time on its head and we say, allocate time for self-care. I have 10 different categories. Then allocate time for family, and only after allocate time for your work. And you might find when you do that, oh, I don't actually really have that much time for work. Mm-hmm. So if I am giving my services, especially if it's a one-to-one service, and I need to earn X dollars, and I only have this small bucket of time to give, I better make sure that I'm receiving what I need so that I don't get into that place of drain, resent, all of those sorts of things. And so if we price and package our services based on these realities, it's not a situation where just give me whatever. It is a situation from a place of true self-honoring where we can say, actually, this is what I need in order to give my service in this way. And so that is the equation for enough. It is being able to ask for what I need in exchange for what I actually have to give, cleanly and clearly. And it's just a process that we have to learn because nobody ever taught us to know what we need, to know what we have to give, or definitely not to ask for it, right? And so that's where you were. You were in that place as the nurturer, as the service giver, as the space holder, as the carer, of not just knowing those parts. Mm-hmm. And so then you step into business and you haven't learned that yet.
Right. So I had the passion though. And the passion is what drove me. I could not have done this unless it was in my heart to do it. Yeah. I never did anything that I didn't feel aligned with. When I did body work, when I did all of it. It had to be here. I was a really bad employer. I was really bad. If I had like a mundane job, I just had a really hard time. Anyway, so when I embarked on Beyond Broth, I had to find out how to do it. So I had to ask a lot of people, and yet, it was beginner's mind over and over and over again. It was a place of humbleness. It was a place of asking for support.
Yeah.
It was asking for support. And I then had to be able to receive it.
Mm.
And the receiving experience carried on and continues to carry on. Of course, now I feel like I'm, it's receiving, but it's a lot of giving, work. It's really stepping up in a place. And what I discovered early on, well, I should say after about 3 years, I said, I really can't do this alone. Meaning that I needed not only financial support, but I needed the physical support, because I was one woman. Yes, I had 6 kids. Yes, I could do it all. I was Superwoman. And how that really hurt me in, it stretched me. I was always doing self-care, because here I was supporting other people in doing self-care. So fortunately, I had a job that I was teaching yoga, so I was in the zone. I was doing body work. I gave myself a break. I knew about self-care and priorities. I knew my priorities had to be in order for me to thrive. And so all along, my self-care has been a priority, and I've held to it. And I also had a trust. So there was a lot of faith. And where that faith came from was really my relationship with myself and divine, God, whatever, that word would be. I could own my own and it would be divine. It's like that. We are divine human beings. We are, and it's being connected and listening and staying present right here, and knowing that I am not my job. I am not this role. I am not these identities, but to stay here in my truth of what inspires me, of what, where I feel so grounded, where I feel at peace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this place is what has to be running all of it. This is my place. So if I notice fear come in around money or worry, it's like, wait a second, you're getting caught in the web. Come back home. Don't leave me. Stay right here. Stay present. And that, especially these days, I mean, it's so intense with everything that I feel like the level of responsibility and commitment to what I'm doing, staying right here and present, is more important than ever. More important, staying grounded, because wow, we could get caught up in this incredible chaos, and many are, and they're in total fear, in total doubt. And I knew, it's interesting what the people that now are on my board. So I have an incredible board, an incredible CEO who, she's such a gift, Sarah Bird. I'm giving her a call out because I couldn't do this without them. I could not do this without being in community. Yeah. And I never wanted this to be just mine. It wasn't about me. I wanted to support people in their wellness and in feeling their own birthright of, the their health. We all deserve to be healthy and well. And it's a matter of, can you take care of yourself? This is a responsibility too.
Yeah.
So the little packets were like sending out packets of my heart.
Yeah. Well,
And
and what I'd love to do, Grace, is really translate that into. So last night, every month I do a call called the Enough coaching call. And last night we were talking about money projects versus heart projects. And ultimately came to, really, no matter what you're doing, it has to be coming from the heart. It has to be infused with the heart. And that's really what you just showed us, is what that looks like and what that feels like coming through you, right? And so, but then how do we translate that into the really practical realities of money?
yes,
How do we make that translation? And one of the things that you said is that when you start to get spun out in the fear, which money can really do, it is continuously coming back to the heart, why you're doing this, where is that heart of service coming from, and remembering, like, oh, I was never doing this just for me anyway. And I'd love, and one of the things that I love about money is that money is controllable. Actually, it really is. Like, once we learn how it works, and we might not know how it works in the beginning, and I certainly didn't, and I don't think you did. But once we learn how it works, one of the things that I've discovered is that money is really actually pretty controllable, and it responds really well to how we're being with it. And so I have started to learn to use my own feelings to recognize when I am outsourcing my fear about things I can't control to money, or when I am going into scarcity around money, if perhaps I've gotten disconnected from my heart and why I'm actually here and why I'm actually doing what I'm doing. Because what I have repeatedly found, and I think that you will probably agree with this, is that when I am staying connected to my why and my heart of service, the resources show up.
it's amazing. It is a magical thing.
It's not magic, because here's because I think
I know it well. I agree.
But it seems like magic. But what I think I've noticed through your lens and through my lens is that there's a piece that a lot of people don't know. That is what makes the magic happen. And it is clarity of knowing what you need. I remember us taking a walk, and you needed some amount of money. I can't remember now what it was. But like, you needed that amount of money to be able to make your next order of broth. And I could feel the part of me that was like, is Grace going to make it? Is Grace going to make it? Like, I didn't know if you were going to make it in your business. You've never been a businesswoman before, and you're going through all the ups and the downs. And then this question, is Grace going to make it? And I knew you were going to make it when I heard your clarity about what you needed. There was a specific amount of money that needed to come in. I don't know where that money ended up coming from, but it came.
It did.
And I wonder if you remember this moment as well and want to talk about it at all, because I think that was a turning point. Then there have been many turning points.
Oh my gosh, there have been many turning points. Yeah, what I was thinking about, its alignment. It's the alignment in my integrity, and yes, that other piece is, well, what do I need? And I was very clear, because it's the nuts and bolts. It's not like I'm over asking, because these are large sums. And for me, it was like a stretch. Every sum, every level I got to, it was like, whew, that was a big ask. And I was like, oh, okay, where am I coming from? um, it had a shift. There was, so it's knowing what I needed, but it was also, it's so interesting. I didn't feel like it was for me. It wasn't for me. It was for the hall.
That's right.
And in asking for the hall, it was my service. It's like, it's that extension of my service, and it was still me giving, but it wasn't about me anymore. It so it was easier, a little bit easier to ask, um, in that it was no longer me as a service provider. So that's where that shift was for me.
Yeah.
Um,
And you also have needed to make sure that your own needs have been met.
oh, absolutely. Well, that's where the self-care, my priorities, as I said, I always took care of myself. I always took care of myself. And that's part of my integrity. That's part of me. It's that experience of knowing you deserve something, of knowing that I already am the value. I already, value is such a screwed up word of what your value is, because it's, oh my God, you're a divine, precious being that has a birthright, and that has, we're all so precious. Life is so precious. And that practice. So there's a lot that got me here.
Well, that's why I don't like the words, and a lot of people use them, charge what you're worth. You can't charge what you're worth. You're priceless. You're infinite. You're worth infinite. What you can do, though, is charge what you need. And so being really in touch with that, and what you need and why you need what you need, I think is
Right.
so important. And, I think I'd like to also shift to, again, a curiosity I have, because I haven't heard where you are with things now. But at some point also, I believe and imagine, because I know how it's been with my own company, is that you started to need to give beyond what might have felt comfortable. And I don't just mean your time, I mean parts of the company, this whole that you're building. And I feel curious about how that has been for you, because I'm in that process. I brought on a COO a year and a half ago, and I could not be where I am in my company now without him. And I gave him 15% of my company. He's going to end up with 35% pretty soon. I'm actually in a whole process of divesting of a big part of my interest in my company so that I can allow in others to share in our next level of growth, and buy land, which is really beginning to become a need in my system. It's always been a want before, but I can feel it now as like, actually, no, it's a need. And I don't, anyway, my own relationship with needs and wants is interesting, but that piece of giving or selling, parts of what I've created has been a really interesting process. And as you've brought in a CEO, I'm imagining that there's been some of that as well. And as you have a board now it's not all just yours, right?
No,
Yeah.
I remember, when I started, I already had 2 investors, which I couldn't do it without having them. And that was the very beginning, that I still had the majority of the company, but it was the beginning. And this last year, with having investment, investors coming in, and my CEO, but I rather have, let's say, a small piece of a large pie than a big piece of a very small pie, first of all. This is something that I do, it is how I'm supporting myself in the world. So as I give and support others, I'm also being supported. And for me, business and everything else in life, relationships, are to me transformational tools. So the business is giving me the financial piece, but it's giving me, oh my goodness, so much gold. It's been the most incredible journey to be learning what I'm learning about myself, about communication, about humanity, about um, the conversations I've never had before. They're with investors, with the board, with how to structure something. And yes, it's all the technical part, but it's beyond that. It's the heart part. It's the part where, yes, they are very business. It's business. And I will sit there and be in that and engage in that and learn so much from it. And then I share something and give to them. I give them the heart part. And I'm very unique to them. And, I think why many of them even came on board, and I started sharing this before, or I thought of it anyway, that I've asked, there's one in particular, and he'll say to me, Grace, all of us that are supporting you, all of us that are still here with you, it's because of you. It's because of your authenticity, your heart, who you are, and who you're sharing with everyone, and your product. Yes, the product has to be good too. But it's the human behind it. And I heard it a number of times, and I kind of got it. I said, oh, I see. I am giving something here. Like, wow, people, I have value. I felt my value in terms of that I mattered. Yeah. And I think for so long, even though I could say I mattered, and I always was proving my matterness, proving my value, I was doing everything. And I'm a creative, so I love creating, and it gave me juice, but underneath it came from a place of, here, let me prove myself to you.
What I'm seeing again in this more meta arc is that whatever way you chose to see it caused you to get educated on the business side.
Totally. That's what I saw, is that I didn't have enough of the knowledge. When I got the investment I got, he basically said to me, I will do this as long as you bring in a CEO.
Yeah.
Because he knew that my strength is not in the business end of it. It's not, I brought it to where it was for 3 years, and yes, I did really well. And I had a huge amount of moral support. Oh my gosh, the industry support. I had so much support from Naturally Boulder. I was blown away. All the advice, all those walks, and, just so much support. It was amazing. And I think it's because what he was mentioning, that you saw my heart, you saw what's there, and you saw a good product. And okay, now we got to get you to this place.
Yeah.
Because this place is, if you want to grow this, you really need help. Like, you can't do this alone. And at that time, when he said that to me, I said, awesome. Because I finally surrendered.
Yeah.
I finally surrendered that I don't have to prove it anymore. I don't have to do everything. Yeah. I can share. This is to be shared. Yeah. And that's when I feel like I really learned about being in right relationship with a partner. Like, how do you have a partner?
Yes.
You have to give up that part of your ego. You have to give up that part of needing to prove and show your value, and get that you already are it. You are, you're okay. You have nothing. You're okay as you are. You don't have to fix it, change it. You're not broken. You're good.
Yes. That's so huge. And I feel curious about two things, because, the decision to bring on a CEO is an expensive decision. I mean, it seems that way to our minds. Ultimately, of course, it's not. It's like makes a lot of money.
Otherwise, what's the quality of my life?
Right.
I would be dead.
Yeah.
I would be
Yeah.
flat.
But our minds tell us it's an expensive decision. So I kind of want to look at that. And then I also want to look at what has changed, like with the CEO coming in, what have you learned about business that like you never would have thought of doing or done? What has she brought that you're like, oh, that's business?
I have a really good one.
Yeah.
And I actually shared this with her numerous times because each time it happened, it probably, I don't know, maybe happened 4 times, 5 times, but each time it was so powerful. She was responsible for budget and finance,
Yes.
which is huge. And I knew that I totally trusted her. I totally trusted her. And as she was coming on board, like for the first 3 months, I had been responsible for the checkbook. It was just me, right? So she would be asking me questions. What's this? And what's that? And not that I was like cheating or lying or anything, but they were things that the business probably shouldn't be responsible for. But I didn't have any other money, and the business I didn't get a salary. So basically the business was supported.
Everything was commingled in a way.
It was very commingled. Each time she asked me, and she wasn't doing it to be my mother, because I saw how I could react to someone who is, my God, having my finances, it's like everything. I felt so vulnerable. I saw like, holy moly, you see it all. You're seeing it all. And I knew though that it would be my ego that would be responding, and the child that had the response of like, don't tell me what to do kind of feeling, right? So I watched that come up. I never said it because I just saw it. It's a good thing I meditate, and I would see these things, and I said, wow, okay, take a deep breath, and it's time for me to up the level of my responsibility. And that was empowering.
Yes.
So where my mind would be like, I could have had the reaction, don't tell me what to do, but it would have been screwing myself, because I'm actually taking back my power and being responsible for my money.
Yes.
Being responsible for me. I could take care of myself now, because a lot of where I came from was, I need somebody. I need someone to pay my bills, to support me, because I can't do it myself. That's what I grew up with. That's where I came from. Went through a huge journey all about it, of really getting now that, oh, I can support myself, and I can do this. That's one of the reasons I had to do this business by myself. I needed to show myself that I could take care of myself. And I was seeing that this business, that's part of the transformational journey for me with this business, is that what I also learned is I could support myself, and I need to also receive and accept the support from others. I need to be able to get it here.
Well, that's why I said yes to doing this interview, Grace, because I've seen you doing it. I've seen you doing what I think is the single most important work that we can do on our journey through life, which is to continuously take responsibility, not from, again, that obligation or duty place, but that ability to respond to what life is showing us and transmute it and alchemize it into the world we want to create. Exactly. And, to go from being a mom, having 6 kids, to being a yoga teacher and massage therapist, to now being a business owner of Beyond Broth, this incredible, gift to the world of nourishment in a to-go packet that is so good. the best with seaweed and eggs and noodles. It's so good. I love it. And you know, really a staple food for me for Burning Man, camping, home, and and to go through all of the internal transformation that I've seen you do. I knew that you know, being on this with you would allow me actually to see the practical application of what I teach in the world in action.
I love it.
Like, you are living the practical application. And so often I can talk about it with my own experience or the theories of it, but you have lived it. And I'm just so grateful for your sharing today, of your showing what it actually looks like to make that, you know, step-by-step transformation and keep stepping into that next level of being able to see where the young parts are coming up and where that's not really it, and where the ego wants to come in and, you know, no, don't tell me what to do, and how that gets reflected in the business journey, in the money journey. Because, you know, when the CEO came in, and now what I'm hearing is, you know, she separated your business and your personal in a way in which I imagine at the end of the day, yes, the company's no longer paying the gas and the water and the hot springs. I imagine you're now getting paid and you're able to pay for those things.
Well, that's it.
And you're having, yeah, you're an employee, I imagine, of the company. And it is taking care of you, and it's taking care of her.
Yes.
What a blessing.
It's amazing. It truly is a blessing. And I just have so much gratitude on so many levels for what this journey has been showing me and continues to, and it's not over yet. And I continue, you know, it's been an intense week, and I'm just working, just continually working it, but also I have to take care of myself. I have to take care of ourselves first. We have to. And recognizing our own goodness, our own generosity, our own kindness and love, and then, you know, sharing that.
And be that.
Totally being it.
And then we get to model it, and then other people get to see what that looks like, and then they get to be it, because sometimes maybe we didn't see generosity in our lives.
Yes.
Maybe we don't even know what that looks like. Maybe we didn't know what self-care looks like. And so in service to that, I think where it would be great to end is just, I want to let you know that, you know, in my own self-care regimen, because as you know, I work a lot. I love my work. It's my favorite thing is my work. Yet I have this, you know, self-care practices that I'm doing that are very practical, and I wanted to share it with you in case you want to pick it up yourself. So 2 times a week now, I have a standing date with my gyrotonics teacher, and I go to her house and we do gyrotonics. And then 1 night a week, Thursday nights, my favorite night of the week, because I go to her house and we do gyrotonics, which feels so good in my body, and I get a massage.
Nice.
And so having a weekly massage is literally a game changer for me. And I just have a sense for you because you are a body worker.
Yes, I do body work every week.
You get body work every week?
Oh, yeah.
You do, yeah. Okay, good. Well, so I wanted to share that because I want to give people permission. You know, I think that sometimes that there is not enough emphasis put on how, like, you and I both work a lot, and I don't. Are you open to sharing your age?
No.
Okay. She is the most gorgeous woman. If you knew her, if you knew Grace's age, you'd be like, what? Wow, she's amazing.
I feel like I should say it just because my ego is just.
I think that. Yes.
I'm 61.
61 years old. I mean, may we all be as radiant at 61 as Grace.
Thank you.
And I'm 46. And the fact that the two of us can have as much energy as we have and work as much as we have, and we get weekly body work. And I just want to, you know, like, like encourage people to say yes to that kind of self-investment, and recognize also, by the way, that when you're making that kind of self-investment, you're also investing in the provider of the body.
Totally.
And
I
right,
like supporting them as a body worker, a previous body worker.
right.
Absolutely.
And so to bring it back to the beginning, this is how we step into our roles as creators of the economy, right? Is when we do know what we need in order to thrive, and then we give what we have and we ask for what we need in order to be able to give what we have, this equation for enough. And then we don't hoard the resources. We actually allow them to flow back through us to the people who can serve the CEO of the company, the body worker, you know, the team member who helped put this whole thing together, right? When we keep flowing those resources through, we're not subject to the stock market collapse that's coming. We're not subject to whatever is happening with the dollar. It is good if we continue to use cash, by the way. That's a whole nother topic for another time, because once we all go electronic, exchanging cash is still really good. But we're not subject to the economy. We get to be in our roles as creators of the economy. We get to be at cause. And so I just want to really encourage everybody who's listening to begin to consider, like, what is your next right role as a creator of the economy that's going to take you out of your comfort zone, but using Grace as an example and me as an example, to be saying in your head, if she can do it, I can do it. If she can do it, I can do it. Believe me, where Grace and I both came from. Right?
A great thunderclap came. It's true. Yeah. Thank you so much, Allie. Wow, this has been so rich. It's just so rich on so many levels. I know we could, as I said in the beginning, talk for days. Right. And it's such a gift that you have given to everyone here. And I feel blessed that you have joined us. Allie's information will all be, you know, it's all posted, and she has a wonderful offer that you'll all get to see. And yeah, just thank you so much for joining me, us all here today, and just so many blessings to you.
Yeah, well, thank you for continuing to show up, ask for what you need, say yes to receiving it, and then giving it back out into the world. So
yes, generosity. Yes. All right. Blessings, everyone. Have a beautiful day.
Bye-bye for now.